And my next guest is in the green room, about to cross over to her. She was born and raised in Geelong. I don't know if any of you know her, because this is basically a Geelong station without it saying it is. So many of the listeners are from Geelong. She's been an animal advocate for more than 20 years and is passionate about harnessing the power of social media for social good, using values-based messaging to connect with audiences. Happiest when drinking coffee, which she's doing right now, and managing her dog, Blue the Grey, social media accounts. I won't tell any more because we've got Kim in the house today. Good morning, Kim.
Morning.
How are you doing?
Hope everybody enjoyed that amazing classic bop.
Most of us are still stuck in the 90s, early 2000s, so
yeah,
any extra encouragement. Yeah.
Happy to do that.
How are you? How you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for having me on, Troy. Very happy to be here.
Oh, cool. Forgive us for not knowing about Blue earlier, because I have not.
How dare you?
I know it's bad. I love dogs so much, and it would have done me very well if I knew about lovely Blue earlier. But tell us about Blue, who is the subject of the last few days, especially in your life. But how did you stumble across Blue, and introduce us to Blue?
Well, so Blue is, was a Greyhound, and he sort of happened in my life very unplanned fashion 8 years ago yesterday, actually. So at the time, my sister is a teacher, and we were just sitting around having a chat and a coffee, and she was telling me that she knew some people who had purchased this dog in a syndicate, and was just talking about him. At the time, so I work for Animals Australia, and we were actually in the midst of a fairly substantial investigation into greyhound racing at that time. So I was kind of learning very quickly what the greyhound racing industry was like. And so I just said to her, look, just keep your ear close to the ground, because you know what happens to these dogs when they don't win. And she rings me up at work not too long after that chat and said, he's broken his leg, they're getting rid of him, like someone's got to take him, otherwise that's it. So 2 days after, there's a trainer dropping this dog off at her house, and I popped over to take him home. And the intention was to just hold on to him for a little bit. And I thought, obviously knowing people in the animal welfare sector, I thought I'll get someone to take him, no worries. But, as you do, you plan to foster, or you plan to just look after these animals, and then you fall in love. So yeah, that was 8 years ago. So needless to say, that never happened.
So when you said you got involved in a syndicate, was that in the intention to race the dog?
So at the time...
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, at the time he was a young fella back then. So he actually hadn't started racing yet, but he was bred for racing. All of his siblings were as well. And they were trialling him at that stage. So he was in the midst of being trained to be raced when his leg was broken. I was going to say unfortunately, but we also kind of joke it was the best thing that happened to him.
Oh,
so.
Massively. Massively. Did you learn much about, you do these investigations, that would be some of the heaviest work going around, and probably against all odds at times, and people wouldn't believe some of the stuff that you've seen, and we still don't know. What's it like going in on that? How often do you do investigations, for one?
So I don't actually do them myself, thank goodness. I couldn't. I don't think I ever could do that. So I mainly handle social media and communication. So I have, thankfully, a bit of a buffer and a bit of distance from it. I do get to see a lot of footage. So that takes, a fair bit of, I guess, experience to sort of learn how to look at some of the footage that we have to look at in this line of work, and to try and see the good that it can bring by getting out there and getting in the public. The people who actually do undertake that sort of work, to me, are absolute heroes. It takes a really special combination of extreme compassion and extreme courage and bravery. There's just not many people who can do that. And of course, extreme skill as well. It's a very, very skilled area of work. And the things that were seen after that, a lot of people will have seen that on Four Corners. That was quite a huge expose at the time. Anyone who will have seen that footage, I think, will agree it was pretty hard stuff.
Was that prior or after ACT banning greyhound racing?
That was prior, and so even prior to that, New South Wales actually banned greyhound racing, which was an enormous victory, as you might imagine. That's one of the biggest greyhound racing states in the country.
Wow.
So we had about 6 weeks of being excited about that before it was overturned. Mike Baird resigned it was a tough time for anybody who was sort of working to free greyhounds at that time, but it's just like this in the animal welfare sector, and I guess in any sort of non-profit sort of charity work, it's often 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and that was obviously a difficult time. We really thought we had a winner there, but so many other amazing things have happened since. It's just a fight that is ongoing.
I know I was reading up on some of the horse racing industry stuff, which always pops up around Melbourne Cup, and we see the advocates and the for it to stop, and we see advocates that say keep going. It's all good. They're only getting whipped a little bit and stuff. You talk about breeding with greyhounds. Is the approach to not fight the fact that greyhound racing may continue for a long time, but work more so on how they're bred? Because I imagine the breeding part is the issue, that when you get a greyhound out of, say they have a great life, they're still physically wrecked. Most breeding does do that to animals, overbreeding anyway.
For sure. There's a number of issues in greyhound racing, but certainly one of those issues is overbreeding. It's very similar to the horse racing industry, in that unfortunately it's just built into the business model. Like you'll breed 10 dogs, maybe one of them will actually give you a good return on investment, so to speak. So I'm sorry, that's not an actual statistic. Don't take that literally. But what I'm saying is that in order to stay profitable, they need to breed more dogs than what they will quote unquote need. So it's just the business model. Overbreeding is part of the business model, and which is why people like myself call for the industry to end. As long as it continues, it actually can't be a profitable industry without massively overbreeding these animals, and there's just not the homes for them. So we're seeing thousands and thousands of dogs literally disappearing, and puppies every year, just because they're not considered worth anything, because they won't win money, which is really, really sad.
So lift the lid on, dogs are, so is there any connection at all, is there any interest at all to the breeders and to the racers of linking up to organisations around and creating a easier pathway for rehoming greyhounds?
Look, the industry itself has an adoption program. So there's the Greyhound adoption program, which is probably what everybody knows about, the official one. I guess the issue with that is it's quite a substantial conflict of interest. So when they're sort of actively and deliberately overbreeding dogs and then rehoming, a relatively small percentage of those dogs every year, it's still, no matter what, means that there's just too many dogs. I mean, that's sort of the fundamental problem. So I guess I would say that, yes, there are some moves and there are people within the industry that will find homes for dogs. So I don't want to dismiss the fact that, it's not that every single dog is dying. Obviously, there are some that are getting out, but it is a systemic issue. So yes, sadly, it is something that just will keep going. There just isn't enough homes out there for thousands and thousands of greyhounds on top of all of the other dogs in the country that are needing homes.
These are the parts of the world makes me not want to be part of the world sometimes. Like, why are we going, when you hear about a problem and you say it ain't going to get fixed quickly or maybe ever or, properly, it's
Look,
just,
I would never say
tough.
Never. I totally agree with you. It can be really distressing, the more you learn about these things. It's a bit of a scratch the surface situation, and it does feel a little overwhelming at times. But I also just think it's so important to focus on the amazing things that people are doing. And it is the most beautiful community, the Greyhound rescue community. And there are organisations around Australia that honestly are just such an inspiration. They run on the smell of an oily rag.
Yeah.
They're totally volunteer run. They see some awful things, but they swallow it because they know that what they're doing is, is helping. And they're just really beautiful people.
I read a quote yesterday, which I broadcast on air. It was about when you plant the seed, you don't always eat the fruit. I thought that was really...
oh, that's fantastic. I love that.
Well, it seems very exactly what you're talking about is, you might not get what you want right when you're around, but you still got to plant the seed, and that was great. Hey, talk about...
Yeah, love it.
Have you been to Bali?
I have been to Bali, yes. I've been a few times.
Is that where you saw things not right about dogs? What did you think about the dog situation over there?
Look, I've always struggled with seeing, any sort of sad animal anywhere, to be honest.
True.
And I'd be that person when I visited Bali that's always sort of trying to steal food from the buffet and shove my pockets full so I could feed the dogs down at the beach, So, it's tough. But yeah, unfortunately, there's sort of issues everywhere you look. There's just different kinds of issues, I suppose.
I read somewhere about that you're against, you can reframe my wording, but you're aware of the dog meat trade over there.
Yep.
I would hate to think that I've gone over there heaps of times and had a little nibble of a dog. How close to a Balinese meal are we seeing dog meat, or do you really have to go down the side streets, or what's the truth?
It's been a number of years since that all happened, and to be honest, I'm not actually really across what the situation is currently.
Yep.
Except to say that I'm sure that there are, especially with COVID, the tourism industry has been absolutely decimated over there, I would imagine. And the reality with the dog meat trade is there's a lot of people over there that need to find a way to feed their families. Because sadly, what it comes down to, I really want to emphasise the fact that, as much as it upsets us, seeing dogs being killed for food or hearing about dogs being killed for food, there are people who literally are just trying to survive and doing whatever they can. And what's happened over the years, so the tourism industry over in Bali does attract an enormous number of Australians. We're a huge supporter of their tourism over there, which won't surprise anyone, I'm sure. But traditionally, not a lot of meat's actually eaten in Bali, but because of the huge influx of Westerners, the demand for meat has actually gone through the roof. And so it's one of these things that's actually been a really sad result of that, is that there are people who are trying to find a way to make money, and this is just, as upsetting as it is to us, this is just sadly a bit of a unfortunate result of there just being such a huge demand for meat in Bali, which unfortunately has kind of been caused by us. So it's kind of a bigger problem than just animals. I mean, dogs being killed for meat. And
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Kim, this is huge. I'm going to Bali again. Well, I'm going to Bali again in June, and I've got 2.5 months to become vegan, basically. I'm not eating meat over
starting
there.
right now.
Starting now. Or I eat all the meat here and don't eat. I don't know what to do. That's heavy. That's heavy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No one wants to start their day talking about dog meat, hey?
No, we played Blue.
It's a dark way to start your day.
We played a bit of Blue. We played some music. We tried to emotional sandwich.
Try and balance it out a little bit.
Someone said on the chat, I'm covering Patch's ears, which is her dog. That's hilarious. Liana May, we have 2 rescue greyhounds in the rescue community. It's absolutely beautiful. What do people get wrong about greyhounds?
Probably the biggest thing is that they need a lot of exercise and that they're sort of hyperactive dogs, and it couldn't be further from the truth. They are the laziest dogs you'll ever find. Years ago, they were actually voted as like the best apartment dog or something. I can't remember, but I think that over my years, particularly sort of out and about with Blue and talking to people, that's the thing that comes up the most. And always sort of like sighing when people are like, oh yeah, I was gonna get a Greyhound, but we only live in a townhouse, so I got a Jack Russell. And I'd be like, oh mate,
the worst.
you're in for such a shock. They're so placid. They are so placid. They can run fast. I will not deny that. And it's a beautiful thing seeing a Greyhound run just because they're loving life.
Oh.
It sounds like a horse galloping. If you hear one coming past you at the park, everyone in the park, they stop and they watch it, and it's a real sight to behold. But honestly, like I'd take Blue down to the park probably twice a day. Once a day he was happy with. And he would just sort of trot around. He'd have a little sort of zoomy every now and then if he met the right dog or the right person, sort of got the wind up him. But he mainly went to the park and just sort of leaned on people or tried to suss out, who had the dog treats, which were always, at exactly his nose height. So he was really good at that.
I just find it so crazy that everything you're saying right now, my whippet does. Like, it's really, really houndy. I don't know about the Italian Greyhounds. They feel like they've just got overloaded, anxious, got too much hound going on in their body. These little faces, eyeballs are popping out. They're just hounding around too much. And it just dilutes into the whippet nicely and then blends up masterfully into the Greyhound. But they're amazing animals. So they really do have those. Did you meet other Greys and it's like, far out, your dog is so much like mine? Or was Blue?
Yeah. Look, it's one of those things, and I think, that's been another really lovely thing that's come out, particularly after sort of the huge media expose, the Greyhound racing expose, is that so many people started seeing Greyhounds differently. And it's one of these beautiful sort of flow-on effects that, the more Greyhounds are rehomed, the more get out into the community, the more that people are meeting down at dog parks and in living rooms. And, speaking of planting the seed, suddenly people are starting to see these dogs as pets, whereas before it was really common that you'd never meet a Greyhound. You'd see one on telly down at the pub, but you'd never actually meet one in real life. And so I feel like they're almost becoming, I hate to say it, but they're becoming quite trendy now. Like, I live in Melbourne, and it's almost a bit of a cool hipster thing now to have a Greyhound, and there's a whole Greyhound fashion, industry around that, and they're buying pajamas and all these fancy collars and stuff. And it's been an enormous change over the past few years.
Totally.
I've met stacks of them, and it's really funny because all Greyhound owners, they kind of laugh that, like, we say that they're like breeders. So they're quite aloof a lot of the time. They'll waft around. They won't sort of pay any attention to anyone. And then suddenly they spot a Greyhound that's just arrived at the opposite side of the park, and whoosh, they just gravitate towards each other. It's like they understand each other or something, and they'll run up to each other, and then often they'll do nothing. They'll just walk around together, but they love each other. They really know each other. And I've met all kinds. I've met really silly, funny ones that are really sort of bouncy and sort of extroverted almost. And I've met others that are just really quiet and sort of happy to, have their time to themselves. Sometimes I think a lot of the time, or at least in my experience, it depends a little bit on at what age they're rescued. So Blue was quite young when he was rescued, and so I was able to sort of work on his confidence, and he hadn't sort of been through the ringer like some of them have. But I've also met others that have gotten out after being used as breeding dogs for sort of 8 years or something, and sometimes they can be a little bit more shy, or they take a little bit more time to sort of come out of their shell. And that's because, unfortunately they're sort of kept in a kennel environment. It's not really a pet, or a home environment. And so they're often sort of not socialized extremely well, or you just don't know. I guess it's the same with every rescue dog. You don't sort of know what their past is, but yeah, you see every sort of kind. They do definitely have traits in common, but you do see such a variation in their personalities.
I'm just going to skip over here to some of the wonderful pictures of Blue. When did you start realizing that Blue had some serious social media power?
I think I was sort of plodding along, just posting photos really as my own outlet with, like 6 followers or something that were all probably family and friends. And I think he probably started to take off when there's an online sort of media channel called the Dodo that just shares positive, beautiful animal stories. And they approached me wanting to do a video on Blue, which of course I said yes to. And they've got an enormous audience. I don't know what it is, but I think it's like millions of people follow them.
A lot of viral stuff. So
what's that?
They have a big hand in things going viral.
Yeah, massively viral videos. They've got a real speciality in making beautiful animal videos. So that was a fantastic opportunity. And that I think that kind of really, I think that got him up to sort of a few thousand. And then, in this line of work, once you get up to a few thousand, it starts to then just sort of keep going from there. And then they ended up doing another video a couple of years later, which was very kind of them. So, yeah.
When did you start finding out that Blue was not feeling very well? I believe it's pretty recent, up until a couple of weeks ago, maybe. Blue was pretty good.
Yeah, he was. Look, he was getting on a bit. So he was supposed to turn 10 on the 1st of June. And in the last few months, people have started sort of commenting, oh, gee, he's old, isn't he? Or he's starting to look old. And I sort of have always felt like backhanding him. I'm like, don't remind me of that.
Same.
It's just sort of what happens with dogs. They're just like young. And then you wake up one day and all of a sudden you go, Jesus, you're old, So that kind of happened abruptly last year.
Yeah.
And the last couple of months, he's just kind of been a bit slower than usual. And I sort of put it down to, he's getting on a bit. Also because, it's been rotten weather. It's been so humid and hot and he hates the heat. And I just kind of thought he was struggling a little bit. But it was a couple of weeks ago that I went to, put something in the dryer where in the garage where his food bowl is, and realised he hadn't eaten his dinner from the night before. And Blue was the most food motivated dog you'll ever meet. And I always said he'll tell me when things are not good. The day that he stops eating, I'll know that'll be just the biggest red flag. And so, yeah, my sort of worry dial shot through the roof at that point. And unfortunately, it was kind of downhill from there. So that was a couple of weeks before we found out that he had a tumour in his heart. And unfortunately, we kind of didn't get to the bottom of the symptoms he was having. It was just one of those sort of really complicated cases that it was causing all sorts of referred pain, and his immune system just was sort of going haywire trying to beat the cancer. So yeah, a bit of a sad end, a bit of an abrupt end that we weren't expecting. So
yeah, I dread the day too. I dread it. I just probably like any other dog owner. It's very, very hard. And it's amazing that, how's it been, this kind of response? Not all of us get to have an outpouring of support like you. That's the beauty of social media. But how's that been? And how's it been juggling tears and then juggling thanks and tears and thanks? Has it been quite beautiful and helpful, or would you prefer just to shush now? Everyone let me just stop and...
No, not at all. I mean, it's been really unusual. I've had pets my whole life, and so I'm sadly quite familiar with this price that we pay for, the love that they give us is the difficulty of having to make decisions like this and saying goodbye and then learning to live without someone who just becomes such a huge part of who you are. Not that it ever gets easier, but at least I feel like I know what to expect. I know what's coming. And we said goodbye to our cat in 2020, which was another big blow. He was a sort of one of those really special animals that, we thought we had so much more time, and that was a really hard one for us too. But it's been really different with Blue just because, the number of, and I'm talking like thousands of people have been grieving with us. It's been this absolutely surreal experience, which I'm so keenly aware how lucky I am and how privileged I am that I'm not going through this alone. And I know how many people go through this alone, and it's awful, and there's still that sort of sentiment, sadly, sometimes where people think, it's just a dog. And my response to that is,
that's really sad for you, because I feel like you obviously don't know what it is to be loved by a dog and to love a dog this much, if that's how you feel, because it hurts really badly. I hate to say it, but it can be up there with the human losses, if not harder sometimes for some people. So it's, but yeah,
so
to be able to go through this with so many other people is actually quite a beautiful thing, honestly.
So important that you remind us and everyone of that animals it is equally, if right up there. I remember a mate of mine who, friends with a few listeners, he had a day off at school in year 8 or 7 when his cat died, his family cat. And we were just all like,
yeah.
He was 8, like I was in year 8 or year 7 or something like that. And, you know, now looking back, his heart was probably a bit more advanced than ours and mature, because he was emotionally.
Yeah.
I love that he had an animal that he just
poor little love.
adored, and we didn't probably nurture him enough. But now that I'm now in the dog owner group, whew, it is real and intense. And you look around your room at your wife or your kids, and you're like, I love this dog just as much as painfully as I love you. I don't. It's not.
Yeah.
You're not more important than each other, but it's really strange to kind of admit that, because the dog and there's a note here on the chat. Huge emotional impacts when we were reading last night. This is from my wife. We were reading the Instagram last night because I was doing some research beforehand and was crying on the couch, and my wife's like, "Oh, are you all right? Go read this post. Just read this post." And it was, "My lovely friends, I must bid you farewell." And the way you spoke,
oh God,
you are. You serious? That would have been, if people weren't crying then. To be able to say, to speak from blues in a monologue was one of the most effective, powerful ways to bring us into blues life, but also yours, because we don't know what they're really, really, really thinking, but I reckon what you spoke and how you shared his life was as close as you're going to get. It was just super cathartic and powerful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, look, that was a tough one. I'm not going to lie. That was a really tough one to write. And I wasn't actually going to do it. We found out the news. So that was he passed away Thursday afternoon. So a week ago today. Is that right? Is it Thursday today?
Yeah, I think 7 days ago. Yeah.
Sorry, I have not slept much in a little while. I've got no idea what's going on. So yeah, a week ago today in the afternoon. But we only found out the night before that that was going to happen. So we kind of didn't have much time to prepare. And at that point, I'd been updating his socials and sort of bringing everyone along the journey and trying to keep, everyone was so invested in what was going on with Blue that I was like, I've got to keep him, in the loop as to what's going on, which was really hard for everyone too, because we just didn't know. I actually felt really guilty, because all I'm doing is updating them saying, still sick, don't know why, for just days, So it was this real journey, this emotional journey we went on. And then suddenly we found out on the Wednesday evening, and we had to sort of do something relatively quickly. And so, that was sort of a 24-hour window that we had. And I thought, look, I'm going to wait. I need to process this and I need to spend time with him. And I just couldn't come to terms with the idea of sort of announcing what was about to happen. And then I just suddenly went, I can't leave these people without him sort of connecting with them one last time. I feel that it would have done a disservice to both them and to him. And also, I mean, how jarring that would be to suddenly come in as me and go, sorry guys, this happened last night, It just didn't feel right. So I thought, I'm just going to make this short and sweet, but it was really important to me that he was able to sort of, say goodbye to them that one last time. And I've had a few people reach out and tell me that they were sort of grateful for that. So I do feel like it was the right decision. And it was a tough one for sure.
I mean, I hope I'm not, it was quite poetic what you write. It was so poetic. I really, I commend you what you wrote. I don't know if you've got a writing degree or not, but you just covered some nice, it was so delicate and helpful and sad, and with a little touch of encouragement. And I loved it when you said, and soon I'm going to have a big sleep. My favourite thing in the world. And it was just so helpful to see that greyhounds, if you've got a hound, they love sleeping. It was such a nice, beautiful sign off. And say, I'm happy, I'm eating all my toast, and I've got to go now because my owner's here, is doing everything and rubbing my face and smelling my feet, you weirdo. And it was just so cool. I really thank you for, I'm sure everyone's thanked you, but it really is. You touched a lot of people through this Instagram campaign, if you call it that, but this journey of this beautiful, beautiful dog, Blue. And what the fundraiser's still open. It was a great result and a great showing of support that people just really do love animals, but they love helping people. And I'd love to be able to say we've got the most listeners I've ever seen in my year and 3/4 of streaming right now.
Really?
Yep. This is the most.
Oh, hi everyone.
By
That's
far.
awesome.
We've got over 60 live listeners right now, which we never have. We usually maybe have 30. So anyway, you are reaching more people as we speak. How can we? We can still donate. I noticed that you've got the fundraiser open. Tell us a little bit about what people's funds would do if they chose to donate right now.
Yeah, certainly. So a bit of the reason why we did the fundraiser just to start is after Blue passed away, we had a few people that messaged us and just said, we'd love to send you flowers or a gift or a card or what have you, which was beautiful. But we thought, here's an opportunity. You know, Blue had a chance that so few dogs get, especially a dog that has a broken leg. So few dogs that, you know, have injuries ever make it out of greyhound racing. They're often just put to sleep right there and then. So we thought, you know, why not sort of maybe try and pay it forward and see if we can raise some money to help other dogs like him get out of the system and onto couches. And so I thought I'll start this little fundraiser. What we'll do is we'll ask people to sort of give a nominal amount for a piece of toast, because he was obsessed with toast. He was quite known for his obsession with toast, which was very funny and cute. And, you know, if everyone could contribute, we figured, like, he's got 46,000 followers on Facebook. He's got 20,000 on Instagram. Imagine if everyone just chucked in $5. I mean, of course, that wouldn't happen. But, you know, let's just see. We'll get $1,000. We can donate it to, like, a Greyhound rescue group. So that was at 12:30 in the morning on Saturday. And by the time I woke up a few hours later, it was up to $7,000. So I was just like, you know, what's going on? I couldn't believe it. Of course, I was in tears again. And it just didn't stop. So I think it was 3 days later, we hit $100,000, which I still, even as the words come out of my mouth, I still don't believe that that's actually true. Like, at some point, I'd need to figure this out and do something with that money. But right now, I'm just still in disbelief. I think we're at 115,000 now. That money essentially is going to go to Greyhound rescue and advocacy groups. So what we want to do, as I said, is essentially just try and give other dogs the chance Blue got. Because one thing that I think is really important is that, as special as Blue was to us, and as special as he is to so many thousands of others, the reality is there's not really that much that makes him special. There's so many dogs like Blue. They have got the most beautiful personalities that are loving and funny and could bring so much joy to someone's life. They just weren't. I mean, the only thing that's special about him was he got the chance to get out. And we just want to give other dogs that chance to get out as well and go and become social media stars. But, you know, not really. But I see every rescue greyhound as an ambassador. Every single, as I was saying before, every single greyhound that gets out there, that meets people in the community, that goes up and, you know, leans on people or, you know, just brings a little bit of delight to someone's day, plants that seed that might mean that person one day will think, next time I get a dog, maybe I'll get a greyhound. Yes. So the more greyhounds we can get out into, you know, local dog parks and into homes, this will keep going forever until the whole world's covered in rescue greyhounds. That's the dream. So that's where we want the money to go. There's a number of greyhound rescue organisations in Australia. So I can't say at this point exactly how the money's going to be divvied up. Obviously, I wasn't expecting this amount of money, so this is going to have to be a bit more of a formal process than me just doing a bank transfer and sending off an email. So I've just promised all of Blue's supporters that we're just going to find the highest impact for dollar value that we can, and I'm going to bring them along with us just so that they know, you know, what that looks like. Yeah, I'm just so conscious that, look, we've had some donations of sort of like $500, but we've also had donations of $5. And people, particularly over the last couple of years, we all know it's been a really tough couple of years for a lot of people. And I'm just so conscious of the fact that there are people on pensions who don't have much income, who have got, who are single parents with kids at home that they need to feed, who are donating to this fundraiser. It's the most incredible thing. And so for those people who are giving me just any little bit that they can, or I should say giving the dogs every little bit that they can, it's those are the people I'm thinking about when I'm, going to be making a decision about where this money goes. So I want to know that person who gave $5, that $5 is going to work its ass off to help Greyhounds. So yeah, stay tuned is the really short answer to that question.
No, I think it's brilliant because a lot of us would probably see the great things that you're doing and think, far out, I wish I could kind of affect the world like that, because you are making a huge impact, but you are clearly making it very clear that it's the support and the generosity of everyone, and that is how you can get involved. You don't have to be the Instagram poster or have a Greyhound or this beautifully timed moment where everything just falls in place and it's trendy that you got a trendy dog or anything like that. It's literally jumping on and supporting in these ways behind the scenes. That gives you the drive to do it. I really appreciate it. This is crazy. We've got 87 lists. This is crazy. I'm actually shocked. I'm not shocked. No, I am shocked. You've brought so much.
I won't take it personally that you're shocked, Troy.
There's lots of people here that are listening, and I'm so glad that we can create this platform to be able to talk about things openly. I really thank you for coming on so early in the morning and talking about an emotional, open, encouraging, beautiful topic as such as blue.
It's absolutely my pleasure. And if I can just maybe say one more thing, I'm sorry, I know I'm conscious of the fact that I've talked your ear off, but just another really important thing. The fundraiser is wonderful, but it's also Greyhound Adoption Month. April is Greyhound Adoption Month.
Yeah.
So, hey, if anyone's been thinking about adopting a Greyhound, now's the time to do it. But also, if you can't afford to donate, or if you're just wanting to know how to help Greyhounds, and even if you can't adopt, please just share, get on your socials, and there's Greyhound rescue groups are sharing the heck out of things at the moment. Lots of content about Greyhounds, lots of dogs that need homes. If you can just help get that out there further, and just help all of us in the Greyhound community talk about these dogs and encourage other people to adopt them, or fostering them is also an enormously amazing life-saving thing, then please do.
It's how my dog Derek got into my life too. The old foster
Derek.
it. Just give it a little foster. Give it a little foster.
Yeah.
They're very good at hiding
one morning.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, just one warning if you're going to foster. What I've said to my partner is I won't foster unless I'm prepared to adopt, because I know what I'm like and I know I fall in love a little too quickly. But often what happens is, like, a foster carer, their first one tends to stay, but then they might keep fostering after that. You might just kind of get stuck on one of them, but absolutely give it. Fostering's amazing because lots of people don't have they can't commit to sort of like 10 or 12 years of having a dog, but also want to be able to help or want to have a dog in your life. Like, who doesn't? And fostering is such a great way to do that. And the rescue groups will pay for everything. They just need the love and they just need a home. So fostering, reach out to your local Greyhound rescue group. They desperately need foster carers. It's the difference between life and death, foster carers. So if you can, please get in touch with them.
Powerful stuff. The comments are going off. I'm going to read the last one here from Marilyn. I'm so proud of you all. I don't know you really, but we both love the long dogs, and I've only followed yours for a couple of years. But my goodness, adopt, share, donate, lovely animals. Thank you so much, Kim. I'm going to play that song again because it was such a cracker. And,
absolute banger, yes.
And it's about Blue, and you're a champion, and we need a bit of uplifting 90s house music to get us through.
Yeah, love it. I love it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Troy. I really appreciate it.
You're the best. Thank you so much.